Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another pre-season episode of Late Night Table Talk. My name's Eric Yurko, and I'm going to be your host. It's about midnight in Jakarta, so we better get started. Joining me tonight, I'm excited to welcome on an actual video expert, which is not me, given how many takes of this I've done. Monique from Before You Play will be joining us, talk a little bit about what's going on with her channel, how they got started, and what the future holds for them. Really excited to talk to them about that. Before Monique joins us, I just want to take a chance to welcome you all again to Late Night Table Talk. As I mentioned on previous and future episodes, this is our pre-season. So what I'm trying out here is I'm trying to make a quick batch of episodes, put them out there, see what you all think, and see if this is something that we should continue doing or not. So feel free to leave comments with your feedback around the show format, what guests you'd like to see, other topics you'd like me to cover, and I'm going to see what I can weave into the overall show's structure. So on the personal updates side, what I've been up to mostly has been, actual real life job. That's kind of the primary thing, I suppose. And I've been trying to get in a little bit of gaming, but as many of you know, gaming is a lot harder now that we can't really leave our houses and interact. So California is still pretty locked down as of filming time. Maybe it won't be by the time I get these videos uploaded. That would be nice in some ways. But it has given me a fair bit of time to reflect on the concept of remote gaming. So not to burst anyone's bubble, but I'd say as far as remote gaming goes, I'm a little bit sour on it. I have played many games remotely that I've enjoyed. So, for instance, the Tabletop Simulator mod for the crew is almost as fun as playing the game in person. But I feel like that's sort of where it peaks out for me, is that most of the time it's almost as fun. And that, I think, is partially due to what I actually enjoy about the board gaming experience, which isn't really just the let's move some pieces around, let's see who wins. Oh, it was you? Terrible. Oh, it was me? Maybe still terrible. Sometimes winning can be bad. But I think it's more that the social aspect still really isn't there. Even if you've got a great webcam, even if you've got supportive friends who are willing to log on, there's something critical to the experience of physical interaction that I just think remote games haven't been able to capture yet. Granted, I have not played any VR games. I think the only one that actually, no, wait, that's not fair. Tabletop Simulator, I think, has a VR mod. I just haven't hooked up the Oculus and gotten into it. But it's something about the combination of the social experience of actually seeing other people and the tactile experience of physically interacting with pieces that even the best board game based physics simulator is probably not going to be able to get you. That said, to be fair, there are still some very good titles that can be played remotely. So I've actually been enjoying several, and these are just a few of them. Not all of these can be played remotely, but a wide variety of them can be. And they cover a few different levels of remote play. So one particular level is, as I've been mentioning, Tabletop Simulator, Board Game Arena, or Tabletopia. So I had the opportunity to try out the Fort Tabletop Simulator mod. It's pretty good. As I've mentioned previously, I think I would still generally prefer playing board games in person, but I think it's been a nice way to introduce a few people to Fort without having to necessarily be physically in person with them. Another tier of remote play that I've been trying is sort of I have the game, and then I distribute how I'm playing to a bunch of people who are playing remotely. So I've been trying that with Karuba and Floorplan, which has worked pretty well. I mean, Floorplan, Karuba, Welcome To, and a number of the roll and rights, flip and rights are, I think, designed to try and support remote play in that sense. And it's actually going to be something that's really interesting, is that it'll be curious to see how many publishers switch their focus to a remote play experience, given that they're going to be designing in this climate, right? Because at the very least, a number of designers are going to be working on remote play for prototypes, because you kind of have to. A lot of playtesting groups aren't meeting. But I'll be interested to see if there's a renewed push on that, especially given that board gaming tends to experience trends. So you've probably seen trends in trick taking or in roll and write or in asymmetrical play. And I think that these waves sort of, they flow, they ebb, etc. And it'll be interesting to see if remote play becomes another trend. But we really won't be able to tell for probably 4 to 8 months, I'd wager. In addition to this sort of, I have the copy of the game and I distribute the information that you need to play, there's also sort of the, we all have a copy of the game and we interact in that sense. And I think the Search for Planet X has been working pretty well in that regard, right? As long as other players are keeping track of the board and they're keeping track of their theory tokens, quick bit, the Search Planet X is a deduction game about trying to find the mysterious Planet X. You're moving through the board as the night sky changes, and as the night sky moves, certain sectors are available for you to scan, looking for things like gas clouds, comets, asteroids, and the like. If all players are maintaining board state, then it's possible for you to have the hidden information without necessarily requiring another player to tell you something that you shouldn't already know. And especially for a deduction game, the hidden information is a fairly large component of what makes the game compelling. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it works. It's not my favorite, although I do quite enjoy many of these games. I think it just ultimately boils down to I'm looking forward to being able to play games in person again. But I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on remote play. If there are games that you've been enjoying, games that you really think other people should try, please feel free to post about them in the comments, and I'd love to check them out. So let's bring on our guest tonight, Monique. Monique is one half of Before You Play, a YouTube channel focusing on, as you might guess from the larger context of this show, board games and tabletop games. She and her husband Naveen got their start focusing mostly on videos that taught you, the viewer, how to teach a game that you were about to play, sort of speed up that process. But they've since expanded their scope into other areas such as playthroughs, reviews, vlogs, and the like. Monique's been great, really excited to have her on the show, and really excited to see what she does next with the channel. So please join me in welcoming Monique. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Monique. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited to be doing this. So, I've been asked this question many times. I'm sick of it, but now that I'm running something where I can ask people questions, I can ask it. So, what's Monique playing? I think is really something that I feel like the audience is really going to be interested in. Just that specific formulation of the question. What's Monique playing?
What's Monique playing? Ooh, that seems for some reason it's such a simple question, but also so difficult. So like, what have I been playing this week or in general?
However you feel like you want to like explore the question space there.
I have been playing, well, we've been playing a lot of stuff just specifically for our channel, so we haven't done like a whole lot of just like us gaming. But to answer your question, the last game that I played was Pipeline.
Oh yeah. I think I may
Yeah.
either saw or heard about that through like the various social media channels, or I think I was doing some like research for the show and I noticed that you had a couple videos on pipelines, so that all kind of blends together in my brain. We could have an entire episode on like the reliability of memory, and that's gonna be more existentially terrifying and probably related. So I may leave that one for the archives.
Nice.
Yeah, but so how was Pipeline? Tell me a bit more about it.
Pipeline, have you played Pipeline before? By
No.
chance?
No, I get a ton of flack for this actually. I think there was a piece of feedback that someone shot at the American Tabletop Awards that was like something that was like mostly people would never even played Pipeline, and I'm like, I read the rulebook for Pipeline. Like I'm familiar with Pipeline. I know it's a good game, but no, I have not. I have not really had the chance to. It looks beautiful though, like a really pretty.
It is. It is very difficult. It's like a very unforgiving economic game where you're just like trying to maximize your money throughout the entire game. And it's not one of those games where you can kind of like play around with new ideas as the game comes along. Like it's definitely not like a point salad game.
Right.
So it's one of those things where you have to formulate a plan early and you have to try to like make sure it works. And so that can be very frustrating. But for me, we like it a lot. It's great. It's a fantastic game.
That's good. Have you tried a Factory Funner? That's just what I think of when I think of pipes.
Factory Funner?
Yeah, Factory Funner. It's it's
Oh, I've
the
never
it's a
heard of
sequel
that.
to Factory Fun, and it claims
Oh,
scientifically that it is 50% more fun than Factory Fun,
interesting.
because Factory Fun, all the spaces are squares, and Factory Funner, all the spaces are hexes. So by their own
Ah,
admission, it is 50% more fun. It's
okay.
basically a factory building game. So what you're doing is you're building machines to output red, green, blue, and yellow, and then you're hooking them up to other machines that convert like two red and one green into three yellow. But then you can hook the three yellow output to another machine that requires three yellow and one blue, and it'll create two green. And it's a very like complex series of planning.
That
Just
sounds
just even
fun,
Oh,
actually.
it's super fun. But even
Yeah.
just building out the factory is a complex network. But also you have to do the tile market, so we'll flip tiles equal to the number of players, and that tile choice round is done in real time. So
Oh,
you don't
interesting.
necessarily have a ton of time to think about what the
Whoa.
overall impact. What ends up happening more often than not is that like one end will have two red as its input, one end will have two blue as its input, and in the heat of the real time, you'll switch them in your brain, and then nothing will
Oh
match up, and you have to
no.
like create complex layers of pipe to like get everything working.
That sounds super fun. I gotta
Oh,
look
it's
at
it's a
that.
it's a it's a blast. It's a blast. I love it. Yeah, no, it's really fun.
Should I
So
just jump straight to Funner?
yeah, I
Or
think so. I think Funner is probably the only one available. They're both Kickstarter projects, and I think they
oh,
were
nice.
fairly low supply. But yeah, I think Funner is a blast. Just an
Awesome.
absolute, yeah, it's super fun. Um, yeah, so I was talking a little bit more about remote gaming and remote play earlier in the show, and I wanted to get your thoughts. I'm full disclosure, a little bit sour on the idea of remote play, just because
Oh,
I
okay.
prefer playing games in person, but I'd love to get your take.
Remote play, that is a tough one for the both of us actually, but um just because, at home we play games already and I have my gaming partner is a live-in partner.
Right.
So it's so much easier for us to just say, instead of doing remote gaming, let's just play a game, right? So whenever it does come up that we do any sort of remote gaming, it's with other people who really want to get a game in. So we've done like FaceTime gaming where we set up, I played that style with you,
Right. Yeah.
or you do like the online simulators.
Hmm.
And I would prefer the FaceTime gaming where you still set up the real game and
Interesting.
kind of go about it. Yeah, just because, and every time I start like a new game on any of the online simulators, I always think, this isn't so bad. I can do this. But then by the end of the game, I'm like, I'm never doing this again. It's just
Yeah.
so, uh, I don't know.
Yeah.
It
No,
seems
I've
like it should
gotten.
be less tedious, but it feels like it's more.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's because you also have to like. It's not just learning the game; it's also that you have to learn the interaction paradigms for succeeding in the simulator,
Yes,
right? Like I've
totally.
only learned what magnify is in Tabletop Simulator, and I think if you hold down the Alt button, it'll show you the full card, and that's
Oh,
about
I
all
see.
I've gotten. Like I think beyond that, I'm just sort of like, for me, it's like playing a board game, but you've got those grabber hands, and that's the only way that you can
Right.
interact with the game board, and that has been a fairly stressful experience because I'm just sort of like, I'm like, oh yes, like it's I think there was an old game called Quap, maybe for the computer, where you controlled the like runners like thighs and calves rather than the legs. So you had to like hit all these buttons to make them
Oh,
run
wow.
circles and stuff. And that's often how I feel when I'm playing Tabletop Simulator, is like I'll be like, ah yes, let me pass you this card. Throws it across the room. And I'm like, ah, cool, my body doesn't work in response to any of my inputs. I love that.
It's true.
Yeah,
Or like even just something as simple as like looking at whatever cards on like the upper left-hand corner of the board. Like in person, you just look at it. But like using these programs, I gotta hit W to get all the way over there, and then A, and then I
right.
gotta zoom in on the card. And then the controls are different for the different simulators.
Right. No, I
So
completely agree.
yeah.
It causes me a lot of consternation, and this has led to some situations where I even like turn down online gaming experiences because I'm like, oh, I would love to play a game with you, generally speaking,
Right.
but Tabletop Simulator and Board Game Arena and Tabletopia like flare up my anxiety because suddenly I'm just it's not that I'm not good at games. It's that suddenly I'm not good at the act of playing a game.
Right, right,
I'm
right.
like, oh, I never, I don't.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's just very alienating for me, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's tough. It's definitely not a perfect system. I feel like it's what we have temporarily, but
Yeah, it'll be interesting to
unfortunately.
see how it gets changed, especially in response to like what I assume is an overwhelming amount of player feedback, right? They've got
Yeah, I
more
imagine
people than
so.
ever. I mean, I even got Tabletop Simulator and I hadn't had it before now. So I imagine they're hearing about this feedback on things like this or other people's
Yeah,
reviews or etc. It's going to be really
absolutely.
interesting, especially in the reviewer space. 'Cause I know a lot more publishers, especially smaller like indie publishers or people who are doing their first projects on Kickstarter, are
Hmm.
often looking to try and get reviews via Tabletop Simulator.
Are you doing that? Are you reviewing via
No.
tabletop? No.
So it makes the photography aspect of it kind of
Oh yeah.
messy because
Yeah.
I mean I think all of us have dealt with at least one person who has taken a picture of a computer screen before. But insofar as
Yeah.
the arrangements that I enjoy doing on the photography end, it's
Hmm.
very hard to get. If I already can't play the game because my controls are bad, trying to set up something like a like impressive arrangement tabletop simulator,
Right.
yeah, it's not that ain't it
Yeah.
for me. Although it's
No.
gonna be really interesting because I bet you that's like a whole market there, like tabletop simulator product photography,
Yeah.
getting like good screenshots, getting your lighting right. I'll be interested.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
if you're watching this and you're looking for a real way to expand yourself to the photography space, that's a gold mine right there. I bet maybe.
All you need is screenshots.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the problem is also like I didn't really talk about this earlier in the show, but um, it's hard to review games via Tabletop Simulator just because a lot of the newer games aren't available on some of these platforms, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so even if I like if I want to just play games, then yes, there's plenty of good fun games on Tabletop Simulator or I
Yeah.
don't know if Max Tabletop Simulator, but that's just because it's the only one that I've really played. But like
Mhm.
the mod for the crew on there is excellent. Fort was, pretty fun
Four was
on
good.
Tabletop
Yeah.
Simulator.
I would agree.
But it's not a lot of games are coming with their own Tabletop Simulator mods straight when they hit release. So like I've got, you know, Codal, Back to the Future, Dice Through Time, just thinking
Mm-hmm.
offhand, and a few other games that I'm excited about playing, Marvel Villainous, but they don't
Hmm.
have the tabletop simulator mod that I would need to actually be able to get them to the table for reviews, right?
Hmm. Right. 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 Right.
Which I guess is
That's a
less of a problem
challenge.
for y'all since y'all have each other like as gaming partners, so you can play, film, and review all sort of
Right.
in the same
Yeah,
space.
that's absolutely true. And I think that part of it makes it so that we're a little bit more choosy about that. Like we have been approached about doing tabletop simulator reviews, but we just won't do it. And it's
Right.
just because instantly it already kind of we already know that it already decreases our enjoyment of the game, and we just don't feel like that would be a fair way to
Yeah,
fully give our opinion.
that's a really interesting point as well. Just that
Yeah.
if you're talking to folks and you want to give them the best overall experience, and if you don't think Tabletop Simulator is going to provide that experience, then you may be taking yourself down a notch or two if you're not careful.
Yeah,
By
absolutely.
Yeah, because I've definitely played games on Tabletop Simulator that I'm like, oh, like I love the crew, but even the crew that's like nice mod on Tabletop Simulator is not necessarily a game that I'm chomping at the bit to play.
Right. Yeah. So that's the challenge for us, at least.
Yeah, no, that's very real. I think that's a challenge for a lot of people, especially on the
Hmm.
content creation side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tough one.
All right, well, let's transition to the part of the show that we're both dreading.
Uh-oh.
So,
Ah! I'm gonna need some
so
water for this.
yeah, no kidding. So the name of this segment is going to be Game That Name. So we're going to come up with the name of something, which I've definitely thought of, and I'm not going to be just coming up with off the cuff on the spot right now. And then we're going to spend, let's say, 5 minutes before both of us get exhausted, trying to come up with a game-ish concept that we could come up with just from the name alone. So
Okay.
normally, I would have something prepared or in my pocket, and I've definitely thought a lot about this. But I feel like it would be more fun to just sort of do this completely ad hoc. So, what's
Oh
your
my
favorite
gosh.
animal?
What's my favorite animal?
Yeah.
Giraffes.
Okay. Um, let's see here. Hmm.
You want me to
Hmm.
pick a different animal?
No. I'm trying. I'm exploring the space. I'm like, I was originally
Okay.
like, I was like, the problem is whenever someone says giraffe, my brain immediately goes to that old Reddit copy pasta about them being long horses, and I start laughing
Oh.
about that because I have very bad tastes in comedy. But hmm. Let's see here. Something alliterative sounds right, so that would limit me to other words starting with G. So my brain originally said gyro drafts, and
Oh.
I don't even know what that would look like. But okay, let's try it. Let's try it. So the name of the game is going to be Draft Guard.
Giraffe guard.
Yeah, Guard.
Gua. Oh, I see. Giraffe guard. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Think
Okay.
about it like a picture of a very officially dressed giraffe on the cover.
Like a soldier giraffe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we just start coming up
Yeah.
with the game.
What kind of
Okay,
what
so
kind
this
of what
is a
kind of
minis game. This is
okay.
going to be
Minis.
a giraffes on a map,
Okay.
right?
Drafts on the map, I'm fine. That's good. That sounds
And
good. So are we
they
talking like each of the so are there going to be other animals or is it just going to be drafts?
oh, there's definitely going to be other animals because the goal of the game is for the giraffes to take over
Okay.
the animal world,
Okay.
as these war games are typically
Right.
about.
War games, something I'm very experienced in. Although I do appreciate that you have already done the like very common industry sidestep of, ooh, if we have people, this game is problematic in some way, so we're just going to put in animals instead. Fixed it.
Thanks. There you go. Should be consulting.
Really, you could probably make a business out of this. All right, so just talk me through it. Talk
Okay.
me through it. So you got drafts on a map.
Yep.
Um, is it
Uh,
a fictional world? Is it real world? Is it like a Dale of Merchants sort of thing where it's sort of like a post-human society?
that is a great question. I would like to imagine that this would be going on at the same time as humans are around, but we just don't know it because we can't speak giraffe and we just don't truly understand the inner workings of the animal kingdom, right?
Okay, so this is
So,
sort of like hidden kingdoms of
yes.
animals that are having wartime skirmishes for control, while other people are just sort of going about their business, getting groceries and stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
And the should they be asymmetric? Should we have asymmetric player powers? Are these going to be
I mean, I'm
clans?
into that, right? So like you got to imagine that like let's add a fog of war element, right? So you've got
Okay.
sort of parts of the map that you can't necessarily see, but if you're a draft, your neck is much longer, so
Oh,
you
that's
can
right.
see further than other animals, which is definitely scientific. I feel like someone is going to point out that that is not how any of that works, and the best
That is
part is
okay.
it's a board game. I have a ninth grade understanding of biology. Let's not talk about that.
Should we make this a one versus many? One
Ooh.
person plays the giraffes and everybody else plays different, not as warring factions of the animal
So, you,
kingdom.
so you're just playing as extremely contentious drafts, like
Yeah.
drafts with like someone's
We
like,
are the
we've
giraffe
got long
guard.
necks, we should be running the place.
There you go.
And okay, yeah, I'm into that. So it's an asymmetric one versus many war game where one player takes on the role of a sort of a crew of drafts that think that they
Yes.
should be in charge. And you've got other players playing as other factions that are trying to work together to maintain sort of the balance of like
Right.
apex predator.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. That's
Okay,
exactly it.
I'm with it so far. So, how's your combat going to work? So, if I've got my units, are we talking
Ooh.
card-based combat? Or are we talking dice-based combat?
Ah, isn't that always the debate? I think card-based would be I think card-based would be better, just because if it's one versus many, dice rolling might make it a little bit more difficult for the one.
Yeah.
So
So you
let's
got
go
sort of
card-based.
a system sort of like what Unmatched does, where Unmatched does a very good job making sure that the asymmetry works well, regardless of what deck you've played.
Oh, I haven't played Unmatched
Oh yeah,
actually.
you should try it.
I
It's a
should,
if
yeah.
you're into like two-player skirmish games, I thought it's really well designed.
Mm, that's
Also, the
awesome.
art's
Yeah.
great, and I'm a sucker for good art. So okay, so we're talking about a card-based asymmetric war game. where one player takes on the role of giraffes, the other one takes
Yes.
on your lions, your hippos, your antelopes.
Your
Is it antelopes? Is it
meerkats.
gazelles? Yeah, meerkats. At least one warthog. So I feel like
And a capybara.
yeah, that
Or
seems
maybe that
reasonable.
could be like an expansion
Yeah, just
content.
keep adding, keep adding. I mean, you can just keep adding factions, right?
Yes.
Like just
True.
print them off. This seems like should we talk to Simon?
Might be
Eric's
that
gonna
valid.
punch me in the head for that.
We have to have a card that's for necking. Have you heard of necking?
Yeah, it's where the two drafts like fight by wrapping their necks around each other.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
their go-to battle move.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, okay, I can see that being done really well with the right artist, though, right? So you've got like a draft that sort of picked up an entire meerkat in its neck, and the meerkat is sort of in its
Oh.
battle costume, and it's just like it's exactly the look on someone's face where you hear the record scratch, and you're like, well, this is me. You're probably wondering how I got here.
Yeah.
I,
That's so funny.
I like to think there's also a nice opportunity for a lot of fun Easter eggs there. So for instance, like if you're playing three factions, so if you've got the lions, the meerkats, and the warthogs together, you should get some kind
Yeah.
of bonus where they like symbiose really well, but they aren't necessarily like the warthog and the meerkat aren't great at fighting. If my memory of
Right.
both of the Lion King plays out the way that I think.
Yeah, that'd be interesting actually. Like if you all find yourself in the same area with your powers combined, you get to do this. It's kind of like the Trinity power in Kingdom Hearts, if you've ever played that.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was about to say, speaking of games that also feature Simba, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I could see this. I could see this. It reminds me a bit of Roar, if you've played that one. It was an IDW game.
I remember that game. I hadn't played it, but I
Yeah,
do
it
remember.
was. Yeah, it was sort of
Like
a
Pride, something Pride.
yeah. You were sort of moving lions around on a map, so to try and take over different regions. But there you
Oh,
have to actually deal with, and so this is something we haven't talked about yet. It seems like a fun spin that you could add to this to make it a little more complicated would be every round there's some human interference effect. So there's like a deck of cards, because right, you said this is taking place at the same time as people,
yeah.
and like if you've got a draft and they're like trying to fight off a bunch of stuff and they see people coming, they're suddenly going to be like, oh, we have to go back to draft mode real fast. Like the people
Yeah.
can't know they're like
That's
really having
funny.
these long, complex strategic events. So you play a human card, and it may affect, the state of the board, or it may
Right.
affect some of the units, etc.
Now, is it like, are these cards going to be like really detrimental, serious? Like we have Poachers
Honestly,
or
it feels like a bummer in an otherwise like kind of
yeah.
silly game. Like it would be very odd to have like yes, you've got, this Lion King sort of trinity forming,
Yeah.
and also you've got the overwhelming negative environmental impacts of large human contributions to the decimation of natural habitats for animals. It's
Yes.
fun. Both
It would be a
things.
possibility for like a nobody wins kind of scenario. Like, oh, the humans are going to do this every round. So if you don't do this in
That's
8 rounds,
That's actually pretty interesting.
you all lose.
If you add an element that's like, humans are generally encroaching into habitats, and so
Yeah.
if you start losing territory to humans, then you're going to eventually, like, all players can lose the game.
Yeah, exactly. And it wouldn't be false.
Yeah. It's got what's that thing people crave? Historical accuracy.
There you go.
Yeah, that's that's the key component of every game.
There you go. That's true.
Cool. Well, it sounds like we've really
That
narrowed
was
down the
not as
concept here.
bad as I thought.
I told you, so it's just you got a riff on it, right? So
Yeah.
if there are any publishers looking to workshop a one versus many asymmetric war game about drafts trying to stake out their claim as the natural kings of the animal kingdom,
Yeah.
Monique's here.
Hit
She's
me up.
she's available for prototyping, playtesting,
I'm ready.
etc. Naturally, Late Night Table Talk does own the copyright to this content, but
Yeah,
you can talk
that's true.
licensing fees. It's going to be very expensive. But all right, cool. Well, let's launch into the. So we know we've talked a little bit. We've had our little game segment. Let's launch into a little more deep questions. So these questions are in
Sure.
no way meant to be intimidating or anything. They may still be. I don't really have a good gauge for this, but just want to talk a little bit more about before you play, what y'all have been doing, what your future plans are, and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's gonna be fine. First question is, as I said, we've talked a little about before you play, And I talked a little bit at the beginning about how you started as mostly before you, like actually before you play videos, so teaching people how to teach, how to set up, and the like. You've
Mhm.
transitioned a fair bit to mostly review content, playthrough content, some combination of the two. The question I had was really what prompted that transition, and do you plan on returning to doing more videos in the original format?
The that's a great question. The answer to that is Naveen happened because when we first started, or when I first started doing those videos, it was just me.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, Naveen wasn't a part of the channel at all when I first started it, and he would help me like with some of the lighting or just like assist with helping me do some of the shots.
Hmm.
But back then, if you look at any of those really old tutorial videos, I don't have not showing my face. And the whole thing about it was I wasn't even sure if it was going to be something that I wanted to do, like YouTube, board gaming in general. So I wasn't sure if I ever wanted to show my face. And so once Naveen kind of thought like, oh, this is fun, and kind of decided that he wanted to be a part of it, we started doing playthroughs. And once we showed our faces, it was kind of like, well, probably not going to go back to that style ever again, because that's just kind of weird.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
Yeah. And so at that point when I was doing the how to plays and how to teach videos, I always told myself I was never going to do playthroughs just because I always figured that they took so long to record and edit.
Right.
But, over time, the more and more Naveen and I did them, we started realizing that they're actually much faster and much easier to make. And so that's what kind of prompted us to just go down this direction and
Hmm.
to slightly abandon those old videos. And to answer your other question, I don't think that I would ever go back to those specific videos just because they take a long time to make. And in that amount of time, we're covering one board game as opposed to being able to do a playthrough where we could essentially still teach the game. Because my biggest concern was in teaching other people how to play these games. And so in these playthroughs, we're still able to accomplish that.
Right.
So what my hope is to maybe make a how to teach like a series, like a video series on how to teach games. That's
Hmm.
kind of something that I'm interested in doing in the future. But yeah, so for right now, in the future, we kind of just envision ourselves doing more playthroughs for the time being, till we get
That's
sick of
fair.
them, maybe.
Yeah, perfectly reasonable. There are a lot of games to play through, so you
Mm.
should have plenty of content there. Are there any additional formats or contexts you'd like to expand before you play to in the future?
Do you mean like different forms of media or just different types of videos?
Both. So really, like, I know that there's a big push in. I mean, there's a lot of people with podcasts, although I hear podcast traffic is a little bit
Is on the
complicated
low?
now
Yeah.
because people aren't commuting as much, and written content is always. I mean, who writes? But
I mean,
or additional types of video that you'd like to expand on.
we probably won't. I think that in the future we're going to consider doing live streaming. That's something that we've been thinking about actually for the past 2 months, and we just
Hmm.
haven't pulled the trigger because it's its own thing that you now have to learn.
Right.
So that is a possibility. In terms of other types of media formats like podcasts and written stuff, probably not. Just because it already takes so much of our time to do these videos, and like we also have an Instagram that we actually used to do before we got onto YouTube, and
Right.
we haven't even had time to do that. So we don't know how we would make time for anything else.
No, that's
In
totally
terms of
reasonable.
different, yeah, in terms of other video formats, we do these like for games that we don't want to do playthroughs of. We do these like vlog style reviews that I try to make like look different with like B-roll and stuff like that. I kind of want to expand on that,
Hmm.
but before I do that, I need to get better at using technology. I need to learn how to use my camera. That's what needs to happen.
That's fair. I'm also still in the learning how to use camera phase, at least on the video
Yeah.
side. I will say, yeah, there's been a lot of increase in the streaming space lately. I know Ruel has been doing a
Yeah.
ton,
Oh my gosh, Drew
ton of
Well
stuff on
is
Twitch.
he's amazing.
Yeah, what a guy.
Yeah, what a guy. He does them every day. I don't know how someone can have that kind of energy during all this, but
I got a lot of respect for it.
yeah, me too. Always. So,
Yeah. So speaking a little bit more about you and Naveen specifically, there are a lot of couples and partners that work together on tabletop content. It's very cute. How do you
is it?
two It's nice.
It's nice. It is. It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah. So how do you two divvy up the work? I know that you talked a little bit about Naveen helping with lighting and that sort of stuff originally, and also, are there places in the process that you two sort of specialize in?
Yes, absolutely. Divvying up the work has been something we've been working on over time because in the beginning it was pretty much just Naveen would show up and I would just tell him what to do for several reasons. One of the reasons is because I was more familiar with like all the equipment and how to edit and all this stuff, and the other reason is because I was just the one that was had all the ideas, and I was just he would just be like, just tell me what to do. So over time, we realized that that wasn't really a feasible thing to keep up with.
Right.
So Naveen took over all of the lighting. So anytime we are going to do a shoot, he sets up the game. He'll do all the lighting. He'll do test shots. He'll do the white balance and all that stuff with a top-down camera. And he handles all the equipment, like the care of the equipment, setup, breakdown, all that stuff. And I do everything else. So like I learned the game. I do all of like the email correspondences, and like I'm a lot more on social media than he is, and I teach him the game, and then I do all the editing. He's slowly learning how to edit though.
Mhm.
So I think it right now, like he understands how to edit now that we've kind of gone over it a few times, but I
Right.
think now it's about me relinquishing control and not being so like a stickler about it and just letting him have it. Because I think I'm
Right.
afraid to like give him a video and say, here, edit this. And I'm afraid of what it's going to look like afterwards.
Hmm.
So once I can get past that, then he'll be editing as well.
Sounds good. So which one of you wins more? Have you like kept track of that? Like,
Yeah,
like
we 100% the answer to that is me. But not because I'm better. Not at all because I'm better at him than
Sure.
at
This
games.
is a
It's
safe
not.
place. You can say whatever
It
you want. It's just gonna go to, probably the 20 people who are gonna watch this.
it's really not about that. Like but if you watch the videos, I definitely have a higher win streak, and the reason why is because I read the rules.
Right.
And I feel like when I read the rules, I have a stronger grasp quicker than he does. And so, forming the strategies and stuff, you need to know what everything that you can do in a game. So I think it's more about that. But yeah, but there are some games that he just wins all the time. So we definitely have our like specialties, I would
Mhm.
say.
Yeah, my problem ends up that I read the rules more often than not, and I skim, so I don't really read that thoroughly. And so
Oh,
I'll read a rule that's very important, and I'll know it because I read it, but I
right.
won't remember to tell everyone
To
else,
tell
oh,
everybody.
right, you can play with this thing. And so we'll get to the end of it, and they'll be like, I didn't know about that. I'm like, really? I definitely read it. And I'm like, ah, I read it, but I didn't
I
tell
didn't say
you.
it.
I was very close though. I'm like halfway there. Like I find that reading, great start to the rules.
Yeah.
Telling the rules is where I'm struggling.
Uh-oh.
It's fine. We're
Just have
working.
everybody read the rules, and then you won't have that issue.
I've been doing that a lot actually. So back when I was having more game nights, I would just like give someone else the rule book and then be like, okay, look, you can either let me read it and let me tell it to you, and I will miss at
Yeah.
least three very critical rules, or
That's
you
fair.
can read it yourself, and then I don't miss any rules.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
fair.
So, speaking of sort of the content creation side, how do you two choose which games you want to cover? Anyways, is there a process to it, or are there particular titles that you mentioned that you both have specialties in streaks? Are there particular titles that Naveen likes that you don't like, or vice versa?
Mm. Yeah, we try to stick to medium to heavy strategy games. Those are the ones that I feel like we can portray the best, just because that's our favorite genre of gaming. And I feel like over the past year that we've been around, our audience has been, um, more in that genre as well. So we we definitely have a list of games that we want to play off of our shelves,
Hmm.
and we haven't like been able to really find time to do them yet because we do get contacted by publishers and stuff. So when we do get contacted, the literally our screening process is, hey, do you want to play this game? And we both just look at it and we'll say, well, we'll talk about it for a few minutes and then we'll make a quick decision. It's not
Right.
really a big process. But we haven't really been taking reviews lately just because there's such a big backlog, which I'm pretty sure a lot of reviewers can relate.
Y'all got a lot
We
going
just
on or
love
something?
student.
Like, I haven't really left my house in a while, but
Yeah,
Yeah, very relatable.
it's tough.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Pretty
Yeah, that's
simple.
fair. Yeah, I think that working with publishers, especially now, has been challenging, but I do appreciate that a lot of them have been very flexible about things like
Yeah.
backlogs. So that's been
Yeah.
nice. But on the subject of that, actually, I know that it's very frequently impossible to cover every game, given
Right.
just the sheer backlog and quantity of games that are released every year. But are there any games that you particularly like to cover for your channel? So games that you've heard about or games that you're enthusiastic about trying but you haven't gotten to yet.
There are games that we are excited about that haven't been released yet. So, and there are publishers who we haven't like really been able to work with yet, who we aspire to work with, I guess.
Sure, tell me about
Um,
both.
so I know that there is a new Feld game. I believe it's Feld. And now that would be really bad if I got that name wrong. But it's called Bonfire. And that's a game, I think it's coming out, I want to say it's like Pegasus Spiel or something. But that's a game that we're pretty excited about because, A Feast for Odin? Have you heard of
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
That
Yeah,
that
I've
game is
heard of
like
the Feast for Odin. I've
top.
only really heard about it in the context of Uplift Andrew on Twitter used to drop it on things and then film himself dropping it on stuff. It was very good.
What?
Yeah, it was great. So like he had a video once with like a little egg with a smiley face drawn on it, and like it was happening in slow motion, so you could just see this very large shadow over the egg, and then a Feast for Odin just comes slamming down into it. Very good content. Oh yeah.
No.
That's probably the
Is
most fun I've had with a Feast for Odin, but that speaks
is
very similar to our gameplay styles.
is their copy just like wrecked
I think you put it in a plastic
after?
bag every time.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah, it was great.
interesting. It's
Huge fan.
interesting. Yeah. So Bonfire would be probably one. In terms of publishers, we've really been wanting to work with Capstone,
Mhm.
which is the publisher that made Pipeline. So,
Right.
which hopefully in the future, just because they make a lot of heavy set strategy games,
Right.
which is like really right down our alley.
They are very much in the area of games that y'all like and focus on.
Yes. We're
Yeah,
trying to really focus, over time. We're trying to like whittle it down to like the stuff that we're really passionate about. So
I
that's the
reviewed
next step.
Carthago from them a while ago. Hope I'm pronouncing
Whoa.
that right. Yeah, it was pretty fun. A little heavy for me, but it gets to the point where I'm like, yeah, like I've played enough games that I can be like, yeah, this game's like a little heavy for me.
Yeah, that's neat. That's cool that you did it.
And I play heavy like and I hate that I'm sharing this on the show because this is a very privately held secret, but like out of my like top 15 games, my favorite game is Millennium Blades. That's not a light game.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I remember you mentioning that.
And I love
It
Spirit
has a lot
Island.
of
Spirit Island.
Okay, you're like the seventh person in the past 2 weeks who have mentioned Spirit Island. That's a game that's on our shelf that we haven't played yet.
Do you like cooperative games?
We do. Naveed
Then
loves cooperative games.
then yes.
Loves.
So Spirit Island's main thing is that it's a fairly heavy combo building cooperative game, and the
Mm.
way it asserts itself cooperatively is that it provides you, the player, with too much information. So no
Oh,
single person can filter through all the information you need to keep in your brain in order to like win the game with multiple spirits in play. So
interesting.
you have to rely on other people to just help whittle down like the information overload.
Huh. That's interesting.
Oh yeah, it's a blast. I think it's great. My expansion is coming soon. Jagged Earth.
Nice.
I'm really excited about it. Yeah, I'm probably not going to play it for a year, but it's a
Does
thought.
it add like new
Yeah,
uh
it adds a bunch of new
spirits or
spirits. I don't
oh
remember
cool.
what else it added. I think they had me at new spirits, and I was busy slamming the back on Kickstarter button. I think
Nice.
I back maybe like one or two Kickstarters a year at this point. Like
Oh, okay.
I still show up,
Yeah.
but
We're bad. We don't back anything.
oh, I spent way too much money on the Railroad Inc. Kickstarter.
Oh yeah, yeah. I saw that. I saw that on Kickstarter.
That
That
game
was
is
nice.
super my jam.
Yeah,
Path
same.
building, roll and write. I got the whole like big box with like the 16 expansions. It's gonna be great. As
Wow.
with all Kickstarter games, I'm gonna play it 3 times, then I'll probably be done for a while. But
That's
the
okay.
memory of
That's part of the fun. So is life, right? C'est la
yep,
vie.
indeed. Indeed. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. I
Oh,
don't want to keep you
absolutely.
forever, but tell us a little bit more where we can find y'all online. Feel free to plug your channel and such.
Awesome. Thank you. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/before you play. It's pretty much before you play on everything. So Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, except for Twitter. On Twitter, we are before you play _. And on Twitter, you'll
Yep.
only find me actually because Naveen doesn't do social media. Like if you friend request him, chances are he won't respond. So you got to tell me and I'll tell him kind of thing. So that is where we are.
Yep. Sounds good. Well,
Thank you.
again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
Love
you for
having you
having
on.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a blast.
Yeah.
We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all we've got time for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Late Night Table Talk.